I'm Corbett Wall with DB Auction, here with your feeder flash for Friday, February the 10th, brought to you in part by Taleve by Norbrook. Taleve is basically a generic Draxxin. A ready-to-use, single-shot, low-volume dose of Taleve is readily absorbed and delivers proven efficacy against a wide range of diseases. It's exclusively packaged in plastic bottles, so you don't have to worry about breaking them. For more information, go to norbrook.com. How do we keep beef affordable? And that's a touchy subject whenever we're trying to get our markets up all the time. And if you guys watch this report regularly, you know I brag about the top prices and always looking for the market to be higher. But if we get this beef so high that the average family can't afford to have it on their table on a regular basis, then we're in trouble for the long haul. And we've been enjoying excellent demand, both domestic and for export, but we are getting into some higher prices, finally able to show a profit. It's probably not going to be enough profit to make up for all the money losing years that we've had recently, and the equity that's been lost over the last several years. But fall feeder cattle futures are over $2.14 based on an 800-pound steer. Our live cattle futures next winter are near 170. Now whether we'll reach that or not, I don't know. May reach it sooner than that. Ought to probably. But in searching for profit, a lot of the top producers, and we talked about that on the last visit, where we've lost 17,000 producers every year on the average since 1980. Well, which of those are we losing? We're losing the smaller producers. And yes, you say, well, they didn't evolve over time, and they, you know, they were raising plainer cattle and all that kind of thing. That's what they could afford to do with the time that they had and the money that they had for inputs, the amount of ground that they had to run their cattle on. That's the way that they've had to do it, and there's still a lot of them, and I hope all of them stay in business, and I hope more of them get into business. These young producers are finding it really tough to find a place to run cattle, and they can't afford to add as much value as some of these bigger outfits have, especially if they've had generation after generation handed down to them, and they've got a lot of country. And of course it's appreciated over time, so they've got a big foothold. But the top producers continue to add value to their cattle through all kinds of branded programs and all that kind of thing, and I think that's great. But it's making that product, the beef, eventually more expensive and more attractive to export in places where not everybody gets to eat beef, only the upper echelon. And in many cases, it's making that beef too expensive for our domestic average families. And you're thinking, well, you know, we got to get this price up. I realize we got to do that. I realize we got to do that. How are we going to keep this beef affordable? Everybody cusses imports. I do too. If we've got more than we need to fulfill the demand here in our country, I don't know why we need to be importing. But what a lot of people don't look at is many of the imports that we get are kind of brush-fed grinding product. You know, it's not a high choice or prime ribeye log with all kinds of brands on it and CAB and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of just brush-fed, cheap grinding product. Well, we make our cattle so fat here in this country that there's a lot of trim off of it. Well, to add value to that trim, what do? You mix it and throw it in with that grinding product that's coming over. Now, I don't agree that we shouldn't tell people where that product came from, but whenever we throw our fat with it and make it more palatable and more attractive to buyers, then they can slap, you know, made in the USDA on it, and that is not right. We need truth and labeling on that where people can make the decision. But I don't think we should step out there and say we don't need that because there's a lot of families that would be forced to buy that, or would be able to buy that if it told them where that product may have come from, and it was a little more affordable. At least they could have some hamburger meat. But you know, we're facing some really tight supplies coming up here over the next 2 years. USDA is expecting that this year's beef production is going to be down 6.3% compared to 2022. They're expecting the second half of the year only to be down 8%. Now we're starting to talk about some real reduction in supply. And a lot of us are going to be able to increase our demand for that. I mean, most of you guys listening to this are like me. I don't mind paying for a good steak somewhere. And I would rather go to a steakhouse, you know, and pay $30 or $40 for a good steak when I know that they're having to pay $20-some for it to begin with, and then they're going to cook it for me. They're going to, you know, give me a couple of sides and give me an attractive place to sit down and eat that. Now, some of these restaurants, you know, they deal in mostly pasta, which you can buy a train load of pasta for a little of nothing, and then they just got 3 pots on the stove, and they ladle out a little bit of dressing on it, and then charge you the same thing as that steak. That's not right. And I don't know why people go to those type of restaurants, but we're running into some really, really tight supplies, and it's just going to be really interesting to see how this works through. I don't think your big 4 packers are going to be happy going back to the profits that they used to get by on years ago. Ever since COVID, they've had real fantastic profits and all-time record profits in their gouging during COVID when we were on tight supplies there. But now this has spurred up a lot of new interest in adding some more hooks, some more harvest space there. Within the next 2 years, we are going to add significant harvest space. And you know, I think that's great. I mean, they need competition, but don't think that most of those packing plants are going to be out buying cattle in the open market and competing with them week to week in negotiated sales. These new plants are going to be set up similar to what U.S. Premium Beef is set up. Those that have interest in it, those that have invested in it. I don't know, I haven't heard that any of them are going to be selling shares per se, but those people, those producers that invested in those plants, they're the ones that's going to be providing the cattle to harvest. And in most cases, they're going to be added value type deals. What's that going to cause your big 4 to do? They're going to have a hard time, you know, finding something to hang on their hooks. What will they do whenever they get to that point? Are they going to get by on tighter profits, on smaller margins? Probably not. Likely they will start closing plants. And then we've got fake meat to deal with. And of course, we know all your big packers are invested in fake meat. Are they going to try to put that in, you know, in space of the beef that they can't provide? I don't know. It's just something to think about, guys. Don't think I'm abandoning you on wanting higher prices. I want them to be as high as we can get. But you know, our biggest problem in finding profits to raise cattle is these inputs are just out of sight. You know, ever since Magoo come in, they've just continued to go up and continued to go up, and all of us have taken a pay cut just because of the inflation and the higher prices of things that we have to have. And for the most part, we're not making any more money to offset that. But let's talk about your board for Thursday. February live cattle futures were up just 2 cents at 160.82. April was down 7 cents at 163.62. Your back months didn't do much either, down 12 cents to down 27. They were waiting on significant trade to break loose, and we haven't seen that yet. March feeder cattle up 37 cents because corn was down at 186.82. April was unchanged at 190.72. Your back months on feeder cattle up 25 to up 42. March corn down 7 3/4 cents at 670 3/4. March beans down a half at 15.19 and a quarter cent a bushel. Your fat cattle trade, we still have not established what the trade is going to be, or we hadn't as up to the point where we have confirmed sales, which was 2 o'clock. Now they did add to those bids later in the day, likely spurred some more trade. Is it enough to call that an established market? I don't know. We'll have to wait till Monday to find out. But Iowa had 1,400 head confirmed, only 3,000 for the week. So that's about 10% of what they normally would do in a typical week. But live sales 157 to 159. That's a tick better than they were selling some of those muddy cattle earlier in the week. Dress sales 250 to 253. We hadn't seen anything over 250 yet until Thursday, and we went up a little bit up to 253 on some trades, but not a lot. Excuse me. Nebraska 700 head, only 2,800 for the week. Similar to Iowa, really tight movement there and hardly anything. They didn't have any live sales. Dress sales there 250 to 253. Now I did hear that 3 of the big 4 packers started bidding 254 on Thursday afternoon. I know there was some people that bailed at 254, which that was $4 better than we'd had on bulk of supply last week, or actually $6 because most of them brought 248. But we did have some 250 last week. But you know, I'm sure that spurred some trade there. How much trade, we don't know yet. We'll have to wait to find out. Kansas didn't have any sales. They've only sold 2,200 head for the week. Texas doesn't have any sales on Thursday. They've only sold 400 head for the week. How long can these packers go without filling that 15 to 20% gap in their needs and not getting those filled week after week after week? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to find out. Box beef cutout values were higher. Choice cuts up 209 at 269.29. Select up just 85 cents at 254.01. Spreading that choice select spread out a little bit, 15.28 on Thursday afternoon. Your slaughter running at a decent pace, 494,000 through the first 4 days of the week. 6,000 less than last week, 4,000 less than the same week a year ago. And they did that being short bought. Actual slaughter information come back for the week ending January the 28th. Had your average dressed steer carcass weight at 910 pounds. That's 5 pounds less than the previous report. Talk about every month we have the market of the month here on the Feeder Flash. We like to promote sale barns, brick and mortar sale barns. You know, that's not a thing of the past. That's where your biggest prices are being posted. We sure don't mind video auctions too, anything with competitive bidding. But you know, if we lose our sale barns, we've lost it all. We like to feature those. A sale barn that's been doing a good job for their customers and helping them market their cattle. This month's market of the month is Mitchell Livestock Marketing in Mitchell, South Dakota. My friend Jared Herman recently purchased that sale barn and been able to keep it going with similar type receipts. I got a good market there. I was up there just 2 weeks ago at the last big sale that they had. Tell you what, you know, a lot of buyers there, a lot of long-time customers continuing to bring cattle in there. Cattle bring a good price. They're doing a good job marketing those cattle, merchandising those cattle in the way that they offer those cattle. If it's a multiple load offering, they'll let buyers take whatever loads out of there they want. They're just doing a good job there. Congratulations to Mitchell Livestock Marketing in Mitchell, South Dakota. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DV auction late in the day on Thursday, sitting at 182.91. That's back up 30 cents. That's about what it lost on Wednesday's sales, but still running pretty good. Nearly 183 based on an 800-pound cash steer. That's awful good. So we had some good sales on Thursday. If you guys are in the North Florida area, going to be going on the road this weekend again. Going to be traveling out to Lake City, Florida to give a presentation for the North Florida Cattlemen's Group. Looking forward to that. Haven't been out there to give a presentation before and really looking forward to that. See if we got some Feeder Flash gang members in that part of the country and and see what they think about negotiated trade. Let's talk about your big sales on Thursday. Farmers and Ranchers Livestock in Salina, Kansas, 3,100 head there, mostly steady to $4 higher, spots as much as $9 higher. A stickout sale in Salina was 57 steers, weighed 878 at 186.10. Whoa. How about Winter Livestock in Pratt, Kansas, 2,400 head there. The market was called uneven, but it's really hard to tell with the market reporting in Kansas. And I saw some stickout sales there I thought was impressive, including 51 head, 794 pound steers, right at 800 pounds at 194. Your Zoetis stickout sale of the day was indeed the market of the month. Mitchell Livestock Marketing in Mitchell, South Dakota pulled this market. The sale was still going on, so and that's one nice thing about Cattle Market Central. You don't have to wait till somebody puts out the market report. You can go in there through the day and check the market report on that. At the point I pulled it, they had 6,700 head of feeders sold, but they had a lot more than that yet to sell. But including in there your best tested weights was 1,226 head of 7-weight steers, average 739 at 190.20 on your weighted average price. 994 head of 8-weight steers, averaged 850 pounds, weighted average price on them 179.02 on nearly 1,000 of them 8 weights, guys. That's big time weighted average price. Give you some heifers and check out how many heifers we're selling. Didn't notice any particularly going for replacement. We're still selling heifers because they're bringing a big price and people need the money. 818 head of 6-weight heifer calves, average 661 with a weighted average price of 180.04. 853 head of 7-weight heifers, average 742, weighted average price 172.12. And 708 head of 8-weight heifers, averaged 843 with a weighted average price of 167.66. Give you a few stick-out deals. How about Stockman's Livestock Exchange, the East Barn in Dickinson, North Dakota? They sell 74 steer calves weighing nearly 486 pounds at $247.50, way up there in North Dakota in the wintertime. How about Broken Bow Livestock Market in Broken Bow, Nebraska? They sell 60 head of 576 pound steers at $234.50. But the most impressive quote that I saw on Thursday, your Mackerson No BS top quote for the day, come to the market of the month and the Zoetis stickout sale. Mitchell Livestock Marketing in Mitchell, South Dakota sold 58 steers with a 9 as a front figure on the weight, 906 pounds at 180.85. And that's your feeder flash for Friday.